The USS Fist of Earth sliced through the void of deep space, its hull gleaming in the light of a distant star. Captain Eli Anders stood at the command deck, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the data stream flowing across the holographic display. His thoughts, though focused, seemed miles away from the buzzing beacons of the fleet's sensors and the steady hum of the ship's engines. "Captain?" The voice of his first officer, Commander Emily Hayes, snapped him back to the present. She stood a few paces away, arms folded, her expression unreadable. "Yes, Emily?" Eli didn't look away from the display. "We've just received a priority message from the Galactic Council. It's marked for your eyes only." She paused, noticing his disinterest. "It's about Kva." Eli's gaze flickered to her. "Kva?" he repeated, his voice flat. The planet was a minor member of the Galactic Council, one of the weaker, more defenseless worlds. "What's the emergency?" "It's bad," she said, her voice heavy. "Nexar forces are advancing on their system, and it looks like they're going to wipe them out. The Council's asking for help, immediate help. They've sent out a general distress call." Eli's jaw tightened. He didn't need to hear the details. The Nexar coalition had been a constant threat to the galaxy's stability for years, a relentless, expanding empire that showed no mercy. Eli had been in enough battles to know the odds. The Nexar didn't just conquer, they annihilated. He stood silent for a moment, letting the weight of the decision settle in his chest. Earth had fought too many wars already. The last thing they needed was to get embroiled in yet another conflict, especially one that seemed as hopeless as this. But then, there was the message from the Council. "Put it through," Eli said, his voice steady. A holographic projection flared to life in front of him, and the face of Admiral Oren Zeldes, a gray-haired man with the stern gaze of someone who had seen too much war, appeared. The Admiral's expression was grim. "Captain Anders," he began, his voice carrying the kind of weight that only years of command could impart. "We need your help. Kva is under siege by the Nexar. We've received reports of entire cities being razed. Their forces are too strong, and our allies are too far out of range. The Council has called for aid, and Earth is the only one left to respond." Eli clenched his fists. He had suspected as much, but hearing it aloud made it feel real. Kva was an innocent world, a planet of farmers and engineers. It didn't deserve this, yet here they were, on the verge of obliteration, with only Earth standing between them and total destruction. "We can't let them fall," Zeldes continued. "We need to make a statement, Captain. The Nexar's advance must be halted. Earth's intervention will send a clear message to the galaxy. We can't afford to sit idle any longer." Eli exhaled sharply. A statement. That's what this was really about. He could see it now, the political maneuvering behind the scenes, the shifting alliances, and the pressures mounting on the Galactic Council to maintain order. It wasn't just Kva's survival at stake, it was Earth's position in the galaxy. "I understand, Admiral," Eli said, his tone cold but resolute. "I'll assemble the fleet. We'll get to Kva and stop the Nexar, whatever it takes." Zeldes nodded, his expression hardening. "We're counting on you, Captain. Good luck." The message ended, leaving a faint holographic trace in the air, flickering before dissipating into nothingness. The hum of the Fist of Earth's engines was the only sound left. Eli didn't move for several seconds. His mind was already working through the logistics of the operation. Kva wasn't far, just a few light years away, but the Nexar forces would be formidable. They were known for their sheer firepower and aggressive tactics. Earth's fleet wasn't as large, but it had something the Nexar didn't: the will to fight, to survive, and to adapt. If there was one thing Eli knew, it was that humanity could survive anything. And he intended to prove that. He turned to Emily, who had been watching him silently. "Get the fleet on alert. I want every ship in position within the hour. We'll be moving out to Kva as soon as possible. Prepare for battle." "Understood." Emily nodded, her usual stoic demeanor hiding the worry in her eyes. She knew the risks, as well as Eli did, but she trusted him. They all did. The crew had been through hell together, and they knew what Earth could do when pushed to the brink. As Emily left to execute the orders, Eli stood alone on the bridge for a moment longer, his thoughts drifting back to the conflict with the Nexer. "Get ready, Kaval," he muttered under his breath. "You're about to learn what it means to fight a Deathworlder." In the briefing room, Eli met with his senior officers. Commander Hayes, Lieutenant Dorian West, and a handful of others filled the table, their faces marked with the same quiet determination that Eli had come to expect from his crew. "The mission is simple," Eli began, his voice clear and commanding. "We're heading to Kaval, and we're going to take the fight to the Nexer. This isn't just about protecting a planet, it's about sending a message. We're Earth. And no one messes with us." He paused, looking each of them in the eye. "I'm not asking for volunteers. This is a direct order. We leave in an hour. Prepare your crews." There was a beat of silence, then West, ever the engineer, spoke up. "Sir, the Nexer are known for their numbers and firepower. Our fleet may be outgunned, but we've got better maneuverability. We'll need to use that to our advantage." Eli nodded. "Exactly. We'll draw them into Kaval's orbit, and once we're in the gravity well, we'll have the advantage. We'll hit them fast and hard. No hesitation. Make sure every ship knows their role." Emily glanced at the holographic map of the Kaval system. "What's the plan for reinforcements, sir?" "The Nexer won't be an easy pushback. We'll have to hold the line long enough for the Council to rally any nearby fleets," Eli said. "This is going to be a tight operation. Everyone needs to be ready." Dorian, who had a knack for tech and systems, added, "I'll see to it that our weapons systems are upgraded and fully operational. We'll need every advantage we can get." Eli smiled grimly. "Good. Make sure nothing goes wrong." As the officers dispersed to their stations, Eli stood alone in the center of the briefing room for a moment. The weight of the upcoming battle pressed down on him, but there was no turning back. The Fist of Earth was about to make its mark on the galaxy, and he would lead them all the way. He turned toward the viewport, staring into the infinite expanse of space. "Let's show them why they should fear a Deathworlder," he muttered to himself, more determined than ever. The USS Fist of Earth moved swiftly through the void, its course set for Kaval. Eli's crew was ready, but the real battle was still to come. He could feel it in his gut. This would be a fight like no other. The USS Fist of Earth dropped out of warp, the vast expanse of space stretching out before it. Kaval, a world of lush plains and bustling cities, now hovered in the crosshairs of annihilation. Eli Anders stood at the helm, his fingers tight on the command console, eyes fixed on the approaching planet. The Nexer fleet, a menacing line of warships, hung in orbit like vultures. The atmosphere on the bridge was tense, each crew member knowing the stakes. "Status report," Eli ordered, his voice steady, betraying none of the storm inside him. "Scans show the Nexer have established a blockade," Emily Hayes, his first officer, responded. "They've deployed at least 3 Dreadnought-class ships, 2 carriers, and multiple smaller support vessels. Kaval's defenses are minimal, they won't last long against this force." "How long do we have?" Eli asked, his jaw tightening. Emily hesitated for a split second. "Maybe a day. Less, depending on the intensity of the attack." "Then we don't have time to waste," Eli said, his decision already made. "Let's hit them hard. Dorian, you ready to make some magic happen?" Lieutenant Dorian West, the ship's lead engineer, looked up from his console. His eyes gleamed with the confidence of someone who had seen enough disasters to know how to turn them into victories. "I've been running diagnostics on our weapons systems. The modifications I implemented last week are up to spec. If we hit them with full force, we should have enough firepower to breach their shields, at least temporarily." "Good. Then we'll do exactly that," Eli said. "Emily, get us into range of that lead dreadnought. West, you have the green light. Let's show them what Earth's made of." The order was issued. The Fist of Earth surged forward, cutting through the void with terrifying precision. Behind it, the rest of Earth's fleet, a half-dozen ships, all smaller but faster, followed in close formation. As they approached the Nexer blockade, Eli's eyes never left the forward display. The sheer size of the enemy's ships made him feel momentarily small, but he didn't let it show. He could almost hear the rumble of the enemy's engines and feel the hum of their weapons systems charging. The Nexer were known for their overwhelming firepower and brutal tactics, but they lacked finesse. And that, Eli knew, was their weakness. Range to target, 500 kilometers, Emily called out, her eyes darting over her console. The Nexer are responding. They've locked onto us. Take evasive maneuvers. West, target their shields. I want a full power surge on our primary cannons, Eli commanded, his voice calm but commanding. The ship lurched as Emily initiated a roll to the right, narrowly avoiding a deadly burst of plasma fire from the lead Nexer dreadnought. That was too close, Emily muttered under her breath, her fingers dancing over the controls. Keep it tight, Eli said, his eyes sharp. We can't give them an inch. The fist of earth darted between enemy ships, expertly weaving through incoming fire. Eli's focus was unbreakable, every move calculated, every decision decisive. As the ship danced through the asteroid field surrounding Kaval, it felt like a living thing, reacting, adapting, moving with purpose. Targeting shields, West said, his voice tense with concentration. I've adjusted the frequency on the pulse cannons to match their shield harmonics. Fire on my mark. Now! A violent flash erupted from the fist of Earth's weapons, a concentrated beam of energy aimed directly at the Nexer dreadnought's starboard shield. The beam splintered the shield's integrity, sending ripples of distortion through the energy field. The Nexer ship responded with a volley of plasma missiles, but the fist of Earth was already on the move, slipping away with a series of expert evasions. The enemy fire missed, but the barrage hit the smaller support ships trailing behind. Got their shields down by 30%, West reported, his hands flying over the console. They're retaliating, though. Another round of fire incoming. Emily's voice cut through the rising tension. We're going to have to take down their fighter wings next. They're going to swarm us if we don't clear them out. Agreed, Eli said. All ships, focus on the fighters. Give them hell. The Fist of Earth's turrets spun into action, discharging a series of rapid-fire plasma rounds that ripped through the swarming Nexer fighters. Smaller Earth ships, agile and quick, joined in, their guns tearing through the enemy ranks with precision. But it wasn't enough. The Nexer had sent an overwhelming force. Captain? Emily's voice sharpened, her eyes widening. They've launched a full assault. The lead dreadnought is charging its main cannon. Brace for impact. Eli shouted, just as a pulse of raw energy slammed into the side of the Fist of Earth. The ship rocked violently, alarms blaring across the bridge. Shields are holding, Wes reported quickly, but his face had turned pale. Hull integrity is down to 70%. We can't take another hit like that. Emily, get us out of here. Eli barked, his mind already calculating the next move. I'm trying, Captain. Emily's hands moved furiously across the console. We're caught in their gravity well. Our engines are straining to get us out of range. Another blast hit the ship, this time closer to the bridge. The shaking was enough to send some of the crew stumbling, but Eli stood firm, his eyes narrowing. They think they've got us cornered. Captain? Emily asked, confused by his calm demeanor. They do, Eli said, his voice cold. But they haven't learned one thing about us. We don't retreat. Not when Earth's name is on the line. He slammed his fist down on the console, triggering a response from the ship's tactical systems. West, prepare the experimental pulse charge. We're taking them out, once and for all. Dorian looked at Eli, disbelief momentarily flashing in his eyes. You're insane, he said. That charge, it's too risky. Do it, Lieutenant, Eli said, his tone final. Dorian hesitated, then nodded grimly. Aye, Captain. The Fist of Earth lurched again, this time as it suddenly reversed course, ducking under an incoming barrage. In that moment, the ship's massive engines surged, and the entire fleet followed suit, splitting off and forming a defensive line. The Nexer were closing in, but Eli was already one step ahead. "Fire the pulse charge," Eli ordered. A deafening roar of energy erupted from the ship's core, a massive blast of concentrated firepower aimed directly at the Nexer dreadnought's forward command structure. The shockwave from the blast sent tremors through space itself, and the Nexer flagship reeled back, its shields flickering and cracking under the force. The dreadnought staggered, its momentum disrupted, as the Fist of Earth used the opportunity to slam the afterburners to full throttle, dodging the retaliatory shots. Eli's pulse was steady. There was no time for victory laps, only the next step. "Captain," Emily said, her voice still tense but filled with awe. "They're retreating. Their shields are offline, and their fleet is pulling back." "Good. Let's finish this," Eli replied, a grim satisfaction settling into his chest. The Nexer might have retreated for now, but Eli knew this was just the beginning. Kva had been saved, for now, but the real battle was about to unfold. Earth had just made its mark, and the Nexer would not forget it. He turned to his crew, his voice cutting through the stillness of the moment. "We've bought Kva some time. But don't think they're done with us. Prepare for the next phase." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They had won this round, but the war was far from over. The Nexer fleet had retreated, but Eli Anders knew that was only the first stage of the battle. The Fist of Earth and the smaller Earth fleet hovered just outside Kva's orbit, the planet's surface still scarred from the Nexer's relentless bombardment. The skies above the major cities were filled with black smoke, and the once beautiful planet now resembled a war zone. Despite their victory, the cost was evident. Eli stood in the command center of the Fist of Earth, staring at the tactical hologram that spun before him. Kva's primary defense systems were in tatters, and the enemy was only regrouping. The Nexer wouldn't be content with just a few scratches. They would be back, and in force. "Captain," Emily Hayes' voice broke through his thoughts. "We've got a new set of readings from the Kva military. The Nexer are regrouping. This isn't over." Eli turned slowly to face her. Her usually composed expression was now shadowed with concern. "How long until they're back in position?" "Less than 12 hours. The dreadnought's shields are recharging, and their fleet is gathering reinforcements from the outer rim," she replied, running her fingers through her short-cropped hair. "They'll be ready to strike again." Eli clenched his jaw, his mind racing. The Nexer's next attack would be even fiercer than the last. And Kva would be defenseless unless they could somehow cripple the enemy's ability to regroup. But time was running out. "We need to keep them occupied, Emily," Eli said, his tone sharp. "We can't let them consolidate their forces. I'll take a small strike team and hit their supply lines, disrupt their refueling stations." "That's a suicide mission," Emily countered, her voice heavy with the weight of her concern. "Their fleet might have retreated for now, but they've got the advantage. You'd be walking into a trap." Eli's eyes hardened. "If we sit here and wait, they'll only get stronger. If we hit them now, we can buy Kva enough time to get their defenses back online. And Earth's message will be heard across the galaxy. This is our fight, not theirs." Emily stared at him for a long moment before she nodded, knowing there was no changing his mind. "I'll assemble a team. But Captain, you need to stay alive out there. We don't have many ships left to spare." Eli gave her a tight smile. "I'll be fine, Emily. This isn't the first time we've been outgunned." The Fist of Earth dropped into a low orbit around Kva's nearest moon, cloaked by the natural shadows of the celestial body. Eli stood in the briefing room, surrounded by his small but trusted team, Emily, West, and two of his most skilled officers, Lieutenant Naira Avies and Sergeant Cole Dixon. They were Earth's last hope of keeping the Nexer from regaining their full strength. "Here's the plan," Eli said, pointing at the holographic map. "The Nexer have a refueling station hidden in the asteroid belt just beyond Kva's system. If we can disable their fuel supply, we'll cripple their ability to launch another offensive. The target is a small Nexer convoy, 2 tankers and an escort of cruisers. We hit them hard and fast. No hesitation." West, sitting at the table, looked up from the tactical readouts. And if they have reinforcements waiting for us? Then we make sure they don't get a chance to call for backup, Eli replied. We'll disable their comms first, before they can warn the rest of the fleet. Naira, a sharpshooting specialist, raised an eyebrow. You're asking us to sneak into the middle of enemy territory, disable their defenses, and leave without leaving a trace? Eli looked around at the team. Yes. It's risky, but it's our best shot. If we can take out the tankers, we'll put a huge dent in their offensive capability. We don't need to wipe them out, we just need to slow them down long enough for HFY to regroup. Cole Dixon, the team's heavy weapons expert, leaned forward. You know, Captain, I was hoping for something a little more exciting than taking out a few gas tanks. But I get it. It's not about the glory, it's about survival. Eli smirked. I'm sure we'll find some excitement along the way, Sergeant. The strike team boarded one of the smaller Earth ships, the Viper, a stealth cruiser equipped with advanced cloaking and strike capabilities. With the Fist of Earth remaining in orbit as a backup, the Viper glided silently through the asteroid belt. The crew operated in near silence, the hum of the engines the only sound. Eli stood at the helm, his hands steady on the controls. Emily sat beside him, her focus unbroken as she monitored the ship's systems. West and Naira were in the back, preparing weapons and tactical data for the upcoming strike. We're approaching the target zone, Emily said, her voice low. The convoy's ahead, about 2 clicks off the main asteroid cluster. 3 ships, 2 tankers and a light cruiser. Easy pickings if we're fast. We'll get in, disable their comms, hit the tankers, and get out before they know what hit them, Eli said, voice calm but firm. Naira, I need you to be ready for sniper fire. If any of them get too close, you take them out. West, prepare the EMP. We need their systems down in seconds. Understood, West replied, his fingers already moving across his console to adjust the Viper's systems. EMP charge is primed. Just say the word. Eli's eyes narrowed as the Viper slipped into position behind a large asteroid, cloaking its silhouette from the enemy fleet. Now. In an instant the Viper moved, crossing the distance between them and the target convoy in the blink of an eye. The ship's cloaking device shimmered briefly, but it was enough to avoid detection. West launched the EMP charge, which rocketed toward the nearest tanker. A massive pulse of energy shot out from the Viper's main cannon, slamming into the tanker's comm systems and engines, immediately disabling it. The convoy reacted in chaos, as the remaining ships scrambled to get a lock on the enemy. Evasive maneuvers! Eli shouted. Naira, take them out! With a sharp crack of energy, Naira's sniper rifle silenced the enemy commander of the cruiser, sending him sprawling in his seat. The remaining cruisers and tankers tried to return fire, but the Viper was already darting behind another asteroid, leaving only confusion and destruction in their wake. EMP charge successful. The tankers are down. 1 cruiser is still operational, but without their refueling capability, they're done for, West reported. Let's finish this, Eli said, eyes gleaming with purpose. We'll give them one more surprise. As the Viper made its retreat, a series of explosions rippled through space, scattering debris in all directions. The Viper re-engaged its cloaking device and slid back toward HFY's orbit, undetected. Behind them, the convoy burned in a cloud of fire and dust. The Nexer fleet would no longer have the fuel or supplies to launch a swift counterattack. The Viper made its way back to the Fist of Earth, its mission complete. Back on the command deck of the Fist of Earth, Eli stared at the tactical display, watching as the remnants of the Nexer convoy flickered out of existence. They had done it. For now, they had bought HFY the time it needed to regroup. But the next phase was already in motion, and Eli knew that the battle was far from over. Nice work, everyone, Eli said, turning to his crew, a rare smile playing on his lips. Let's get ready. The real fight is coming, and we need to be ready for it. The crew nodded in unison. They had faced down death, but the hardest part was yet to come. The Fist of Earth sat in orbit above HFY, its engines purring in the silence of space. The ship was battered, its hull marred from the Nexer's relentless assault, but it still had life in it, Eli Anders stood on the bridge, staring at the swirling chaos below. HFY had lost its primary cities, its military infrastructure, and its defensive grids, but it still had hope. The Nexer were regrouping, and Earth had dealt them a blow, but this was not a victory yet. Not by a long shot. Captain. Emily Hayes' voice cut through his thoughts. We've received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. They want a status report. Put it through, Eli ordered, his tone flat. The screen flickered to life, and the stern face of Admiral Gregory Blackwell appeared. His eyes were sharp, his demeanor unyielding. Captain Anders, this is Blackwell. I'm reading the situation. HFY's defenses are in tatters, and the Nexer are reassembling. We need you to hold position until reinforcements arrive. Eli's chest tightened. He knew what was coming next. We don't have the luxury of waiting, Eli replied, cutting to the heart of the matter. The Nexer will be back in force within hours. If we sit here and wait, we'll lose everything. The Nexer are getting stronger by the minute, and I'm not about to let them finish what they started. Blackwell's face remained impassive. I understand your frustration, Captain. But the fleet is stretched thin. We're preparing to send reinforcements, but it will take time. I'm not asking for reinforcements, Admiral, Eli said, his voice hardening. I'm asking for permission to take the fight to the Nexer. I've already hit their refueling station. It's crippled their ability to resupply. Now we need to finish them off before they recover. Blackwell paused, his gaze flickering momentarily to something off-screen. Eli could practically hear the Admiral weighing his options. You have 10 hours, Captain, Blackwell finally said. But you're on your own for this one. Don't push it beyond that, or we'll have no choice but to recall you. Understood, Eli replied, though his mind was already racing. 10 hours wasn't nearly enough. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. The crew turned to Eli, their faces a mix of weariness and resolve. Emily looked at him, her eyes shadowed with concern. What's the plan, Captain? Eli turned to the tactical map on the holoscreen. He could almost feel the weight of every decision pressing down on him. We're going to hit their command fleet. We've already crippled their supply lines, but that was only a temporary setback. To end this, we need to take out their leadership. Emily raised an eyebrow. You're going after the Nexer High Command? That's a bold move, Captain. Their flagship is still operational. You'd be walking into the heart of their fleet. That's the idea, Eli said, his voice unwavering. We've got one shot at this. If we can destroy their flagship, we can scatter the rest of their fleet. They'll have no central command. No leader. The rest will fall apart without it. Captain, with all due respect, Emily said, her voice quiet but firm. That's a suicide mission. I'm not asking anyone to die, Emily, Eli said, locking eyes with her. We're Earth's last hope. If we don't do this now, everything we fought for will be lost. The Nexer will come for Earth next. And we can't let that happen. The Fist of Earth cruised silently toward the heart of the Nexer fleet, using the asteroid field as cover. The plan was simple: strike fast, strike hard, and leave before the Nexer could regroup. Eli knew it wouldn't be easy. The Nexer flagship was heavily defended, and they had no idea how many ships were hidden behind it, waiting to ambush them. But they didn't have time for hesitation. Captain, Emily said, her voice tight with urgency. We've located their flagship. It's heavily guarded. 2 dreadnoughts, 4 light cruisers, and at least a dozen fighter squadrons. Eli nodded. We'll take down their fighter squadrons first. Once the skies are clear, we'll target the dreadnoughts. West, prep the main cannon. We're going to need all the firepower we can get. Dorian West, the ship's lead engineer, glanced up from his console. I've made some adjustments to the targeting systems, Captain. We should have more accuracy with the main cannon this time. But I don't know how much longer we'll be able to hold off on repairs. Eli turned to Emily. I need a path through that fleet. Can you get us in? We can try, Emily said, her voice steely. But the moment we engage, they'll be all over us. We'll need to keep moving and fast. Do whatever it takes, Eli replied. I trust you. The battle began as the Fist of Earth broke cover, its engine screaming as it charged into the heart of the Nexer formation. The first shots were fired before they even had a chance to adjust. The Fist of Earth's weapons systems lit up, sending a barrage of fire into the swarm of fighter jets that had been sent to intercept them. The ship rocked violently as plasma fire splashed against its shields, but the shields held. Eli's heart raced, but he kept his focus on the prize ahead. West, fire the main cannon! Eli shouted. The massive cannon on the Fist of Earth roared to life, sending a beam of concentrated energy toward the lead dreadnought. The shot collided with the dreadnought's shields, and there was a moment of hesitation, as if the universe itself held its breath. The shield flickered, then collapsed under the sheer force of the blast, and the dreadnought's hull exploded in a shower of fire and debris. One down, Eli muttered, but there was no time for celebration. The remaining dreadnoughts and cruisers began their counterattack, launching missiles and energy blasts in every direction. Evade! Emily barked, throwing the ship into a sharp roll to the left, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. The Fist of Earth fired back, taking out another fighter squadron in a swift series of shots. But the Nexer weren't backing down. The flagship was still intact, its shields holding firm as the remaining ships flanked them on all sides. West, get us closer, Eli commanded. We need to be within firing range for the secondary strike. The ship dipped and weaved between explosions, expertly dodging the retaliatory fire. The Fist of Earth's tactical systems hummed as West made adjustments, calculating their best shot. The flagship loomed larger in the viewports. All weapons primed, Captain, West said. We've got one shot at this. Do it, Eli replied, his voice low and focused. The secondary cannon fired, a concentrated shot aimed directly at the heart of the Nexer flagship. The blast struck true, punching through the flagship's shields and into its command core. The ship shuddered, and for a moment, everything seemed to stop. The next moment, the flagship exploded, sending shockwaves through space. Target down, West confirmed. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining ships turned their fire on the Fist of Earth, a coordinated assault that would have overwhelmed any lesser vessel. But the Fist of Earth wasn't just any vessel, it was humanity's last hope. Eli wasn't about to let it fall. Keep pushing! Eli shouted, his voice ringing out over the chaos. For Earth! For Kaval! With one final push, the Fist of Earth broke through the Nexer lines. The remaining ships scattered in disarray, the leadership gone, their unity shattered. As the last Nexer ship blinked out of existence, the crew of the Fist of Earth let out a collective breath. The fight was over. Good work, everyone, Eli said, looking at his crew. We've done it. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Nexer would return. And next time, Earth would be ready.